Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's event. My name's Andrew McMillan, and I'm thrilled to welcome you here to this special online event for 100 Queer Poems. We were obviously originally going to be in person, but because of travel disruption, we've decided to be here online, which means the event can still happen. And actually, it means that many more people can join us. Just a couple of accessibility points to start off with. We've got closed captioning enabled on this Zoom, and if you click on that little arrow on the right hand side of the captions, you can either have the captions or you can have a full live transcript running down the right hand side of the page that allow you to read what people are saying, and the poets will also be sharing their poems as we go along. So I'm here with a very messy background, I apologize, to celebrate 5 poets on this magnificent anthology 100 Queer Poems that I was really honoured to put together with Mary Jean Chan last year, and it is today its 1 year anniversary of being out in the world. So it's brilliant to bring all these poets together to celebrate that. 100 Queer Poems really does what it says on the tin. It's a way of bringing together 100 of our most exciting, most interesting, most innovative queer poets across the 20th and 21st century. 5 of those voices we're going to hear this evening. And this anthology arrived last year at a really interesting time where it seemed to me there was an explosion of new queer writing, of kind of queer spaces, of specific queer magazines to publish writing in, of new presses that were catering specifically to queer writing. And that was set against a backdrop of a terrible rise in hate crime against LGBTQ people, both here and around the world, a terrifying rise in violence and violent rhetoric towards trans people and our trans brothers and sisters in the community. And so what I say in the introduction to this anthology, both me and Mary Jean wrote introductions, and what I say in mine is that, you know, faced with that, on the one hand, there's nothing that poetry can do, and pretending that poetry is the equivalent of legislative change is wrong and I think harmful. But at the same time, what poetry does and what these 5 poets do and what all the 100 poets do in this anthology, and many, many more that we didn't have space for that might be in the next one and the next one and the next one, what all those poets do is give us new language, give us collective ways to imagine ourselves and our futures. And that seems to me a really vital thing. So I'm really thrilled that you're here tonight for this event that's in partnership both with Manchester Poetry Library and the brilliant Manchester Literature Festival. And I'll say a bit more about those 2 institutions in a little bit. But I want to get straight on with the poetry. As I say, the poets are going to be sharing their screen. We've got the transcript down the side. We're recording this event as well, and we can make the recording available to those of you who are here afterwards, fully captioned. And so our first poet tonight, and do use the chat as well. I'm just talking to myself in the chat, but do use the chat and say where you're from and say hello to us all, and things like that. I'll just type in again, hello everyone. I'm in Newton Heath. You can tell us where you are as we go through, but we're going to start off tonight with the wonderful Toby Campion. So Toby Campion's an award-winning poet, fantastic performer, playwright. Debut collection Through Your Blood that the brilliant Burning Eye Books published was longlisted for the Polari First Book Prize and was highly commended in the Forward Prizes in 2018. His recent poems have been published in London Magazine, in 100 Queer Poems, as we're going to hear now, and Magma as well, that brilliant magazine. Toby is just one of our most important poets, one of our most insightful and brilliant performers, and I'm really pleased that we're opening the event with Toby this evening. So please welcome Toby Campion.
Hello, hi everyone. Hi everyone in the chat. Hi from Lancaster, Liverpool, Didsbury, Staley Bridge. Oh great, hi everyone. It's so nice to be here. I was really gutted when they told us we weren't going to be able to meet in person. But like Andrew said, actually, in some ways it's great because it means lots more people can join from different places. So it's lovely to be here tonight, and thanks for having me, and lovely to be part of the anthology. I'm going to share some, let me start this timer quickly so I don't overrun. I'm going to share some brand new poems tonight, which I'm a bit scared about, but it's going to be fab. And then I'll finish with the poem that's in the anthology. So I guess recently I've been thinking about being single, dating, queer dating, kind of about how our history as queer people maybe affects the way that we date or the way we interact with each other romantically. I've been looking a lot at dating profiles and personal ads from magazines, dating ads from magazines from kind of the 60s and 70s, and comparing them with Grindr profiles and dating profiles at the moment. And one of the things that I thought was interesting that came out was a real sense of anti-campness among gay men then and now. So I'm going to share a poem to begin with that I wrote. Let's share the screen. That probably won't take me very long to read, but it took me quite a long time to write because it's an erasure poem, basically from Grindr profiles. Okay, let's share the screen. Okay, hopefully you can all see that. Can someone give me a thumbs up just to make sure you can see it? Great. Okay, fab. Okay. A figure appeared and told us to put our handbags back in our mouths and cross our legs right. We didn't look at each other from then on except to spit. The softest were pushed down in the square, and we let the kicking happen, and we knew it was wrong, but thank the sky it wasn't us. Hardness took to our legs like measles. Some boys didn't outlive the onset, but some grew into the stench of bacon fat, cooked white and wet. You'd never know it to look at them, that they used to link arms with us in July and dance. Only on the right evening you can tell, the way their foreheads kiss our noses. Okay, so I was writing quite a bit about around Polari, which I'm sure lots of people here know is a secret language variety that was used by gay men and queer people in Britain before the 1960s. And I was thinking about secret languages or codes that we still have now as queer people and that are still necessary now for maybe for different reasons or the same reasons. And so I started writing a series of poems that are translations of or poems based on gay slang terms that are used on queer or gay dating apps, dating in like the loosest sense of the word. And so I'm going to share some of those. They're sonnets, they're loose sonnets, very loose sonnets. They've got 14 lines and a volta, basically a turn is the vibe. And when we were going to meet in person, I was going to try and do some sort of audience interaction-y thing where I said the word and then you said the word. But obviously we can't do that, but maybe we could still do that. And maybe you could say it at home, or, well, yeah, maybe not in the chat, but maybe at home, that would be nice. So I'll say the word, and then if you would join me in saying it at home, that would be lovely. Okay. Oh yeah, I need to tell you something before. What do I need to tell you? Oh yeah, there's slang terms. So like, for example, you know, bear is kind of like a hairy, bigger gay man, things like that. One of the poems borrows a couple of lines from a Sam Sachs poem, and James Pratt and John Smith were the last two men to be hanged in England for sodomy. Okay. Number one, looking. I'm just going to share 7 of these back to back, by the way. Looking. I wear tight trousers to work events. Expect the least. Usher stray cats up telecom poles and phone for help. Flail in the deep end at the Lido, yes, pretending to faint near fire stations, distributing images of my torso, sure, tensed and edited. I have gotten into strangers' cars, removed my coat when asked, shaved my chest down to a hot ruby hum. Aunties, you found your good men in supermarkets, post office queues, company picnics, other marriages. You made it look so easy sitting there at Christmas in your matching jumpers. Tell me how you got them. Brussels sprouts wilting in the middle, to exhale that way when you leave a room. You lied to me. 2. Straight acting. And action. Louder. Chest out. Stamp on his. Face the light. Stop shaking. Wow, stunning. Give us more. I said less. I said cut. Get inside. Your tea's gone cold. Your mum's worried sick. 3. Pig. Slap your mud on my belly. Have you never fallen over and enjoyed the taste? Your chinny chin gripped by an unwashed hand. I watched my father starve to death in our living room. He could manage only ice cubes by then, his bed 2 meters from our fridge. At the wake, I stood by the buffet table chewing my nails and heard his voice like he were in the room, still reparable. He said, pick up the knife, lick it clean while you can. Bear. Listen, pet, no matter how often you wax your back, wave, keep off their lawn, your neighbor is teaching their children when they see you coming to stand tall and scream or play dead. Hung. Weighty vow, locker room brag, cross my heart, hope you gag, one man's cock ring, another man's noose. Don't speak sex of the dead. James Pratt, John Smith. Someone knew their morning smell. The laugh they didn't use in public. What were they packing into the satchels of their last minutes? The tang of apple slices passed among the crowd. The promises they'd not kept. The ones they had. Fun. We don't have to be sad or dead in every poem, babe. How about free pick a mix at bus stops? Essex Hemphill, tangoing with Mary Oliver in a subway car. A pina colada option on all taps. Yes, the sad, but also salted butter. House parties in August. Every tune a perfectly vacuumed carpet. Ice cubes shuffling round a red cup. The tiny capsules that have kept us alive. Water balloons, corn on the cob. Squeeze my bum. Let's have a dance. And then this is the last one. Fist. Can you all please say fist in your living room? Great, thank you. What did you come to learn about our history sitting in the old leather bar on the other side of town, to buy a man a drink, to take him home, to reach inside a person to find nothing there, to reach inside a person and find another hand reaching back. Thank you. Okay, how long have we got left? I think that's okay.
Thank you so much, Toby. That was fantastic. What a brilliant way to start our event, and what a brilliant way to start this celebration of the anthology and of 100 queer poems. We're going to jump straight on now into our second reader, Aman Haider, whose first book of poetry is the brilliant At Hard, and I really recommend, if you've not got hold of that book from Pen in the Margins, to do so. His poems also appeared in The Guardian, in Poetry Review. He was Ledbury Poetry Critic, who's reviewed for TLS, for the Poetry School, for Poetry Birmingham. In 2021, his short story Post Positions was shortlisted for the 4th Wright Prize, and is a doctoral student and visiting tutor at Royal Holloway. And it's Aman's poem that we have in this anthology is one of the poems that immediately kind of just lodged itself in my brain. As soon as I read it in Poetry Review, before it was even, this anthology was even conceived of, it seemed to me such an important and brilliant poem that I knew I wanted to do something with it. And so to have him in this anthology was a real honor. So please welcome Aman Haider.
Thank you so much. I hope you can all hear me. Just thank you to Andrew and to Ricardo, to the Manchester Festival and Poetry Library. Thank you all for being here. It really is a thrill to read, but then also it's a bigger thrill to listen. It's just such a thrill to follow Toby, and I really look forward to hearing the other poets too. I'm just going to go straight into my poems. Let me bring them up here. I hope you can all see that. Is that visible? Okay. How do we live? We live with our parents and our siblings and our grandparents. And when our siblings get married, our siblings' spouses. And when they have children, our nieces and nephews. And if we leave our home country, we live with our parents and siblings and our grandparents. Or maybe one grandparent comes to stay when the other one passes away. Or we live in houses next door to one another. Or else we live as a nuclear family without any family nearby. So it is phone calls that keep extended family together. In the 70s and 80s, when lines home are bad, you have to shout to be heard. And then in the 90s, phones become cordless, but the charge goes quickly. And later when Skype comes in, you are frozen, your face is frozen. It's how you spend your formative years, growing up listening to parents, on the phone to relatives. You sit in front of the television, watch sitcoms with one ear on a phone conversation that your mother is having under the exhaust in the kitchen, while watching an object being fought over by actors in a studio in Los Angeles. Your eldest brother starts school with no English. Your youngest brother starts school with no Urdu. That is the tug of war, you know. Your mother unable to have a private conversation without your father's mother hovering nearby. Which grandparents came and which didn't. Who is stuck caring for parents not their own is the plot, you know. When you leave home, you are a bachelor too old, too riddled with family. You live with only one person, a boyfriend, who now calls your name from another room with something to say or to show or to ask, or none of the above. Maybe he just wants to love you. And after the fumble, you will both sleep and you will glean in the late light what comes from memories, what is on the horizon, the shaking of plants out of the ground, the untangling of roots, a speck of earth in your eye, frozen for a moment, lives blurry, combined, cleared, destined for another country, gone as you wake. What is your language? It is like the English say, is human. Do, as in, do you speak English? It is for the open mouth, or to indicate the open mouth should be rounded. So not in fact, but It is the French word for our language, Urdu, which seems closer, but OUR is our, already swooped up by English. It is windows on a plane, faces inside, my parents newly in England. It is the town by the Ouse River where my parents put down. It is Urdu with an English mouth, English with an Urdu mouth. It is a brown mouth, no matter the words coming out. It is an eddying speech coming out at dinner. It is, oh, the reaction. It is gag and gulp, plate and pluck. It is the spores of a mouth paused on a page. It is the name of the sound and the sound of the name. It is the question at the border, the start of the country. It is the answer my parents give, Urdu, the most beautiful language for poetry. Of not going in. At 19 years old, you did go in. A spider in draining water, you were in a group of friends. None of you had been to a gay club. Legs going, dancing a kind of scrambling. You were plastered with looking. You were gay, but no one knew. No one resembled you. One friend made out with a guy, laughed. You felt betrayal, piped up only for water. The future would catch you between a glass and postcard, put you out. At 29 years old, you got up to the door, walked past. Friends had started to get married. Light-footed, you went to weddings, came back parched, mindful of feet. You walked down the street, swerved past the intended bar. You became a walker. The flaneur was a voider, tangling only with the route making. You walked London, aesthete of asceticism. Plenty of things in the world didn't happen. You lay with your pathology. At 39 years, oh, this is getting silly. Maybe it is agoraphobia or arachnophobia, fear of the self. Are you scared of blood or dark rooms or ghosts? Which is homophobia? Walk through the door and there will probably be men mundanely drinking, white men without eyes on you. At home, your parents put the Quran on the topmost shelf. Fearlessness was in reach with your people. At 43, now you are able to go into a queer bookshop, search out a dictionary. Are you gay if you don't go out? You meet a friend, you are pressed between pages. Your fate is friends who return books as they were lent. Now even those bars, those clubs have shut down, moved on. Your inability has become obsolete. Consider the spider and the web. You protested marriage but believed in the institution of the gay bar. At 47, a fading story, you go in finally. Foreign body, consider the floodplain, life become its coping mechanisms, blame the safety of desks and distances, familiar faces. Oh, snap out of it. Remember what Elsa sang, let time be queer. Remember what the Quran said, Allah made your home as a place of rest. You sit on a slide summit, you are here, older, odder, spider, when will you be back? Praying. We move closer as more men enter, stand shoulder to shoulder, say our lines together, in rows raise our hands, put them to our knees, men of all ages, kneeling upright, bent over, foreheads to the ground. We rise and fall, wait by the bar, the swell of men as it gets busier. We shuffle closer, scent of ourselves, songs above our heads, men mouthing words, approaching each other, alone with our devotion, waiting to be found, praying for his love. And so this is the poem from the collection. In terms of cottaging, your friend took his lunch, sandwiches, down to the public toilets. That's gross, I said, but then I said I wasn't coming over because I had a throat infection. At school, F and I played a game where F would stand on a toilet and I would guess which stall he was in. P copied the Eternal album for me. He asked me, "Don't you love Don't Make Me Wait?" At home, a tap was open downstairs. My parents argued. They should not have been married, but were. It was arranged. It was better to cut to the chase and work at a relationship. I imagined what might have been for them, briefly in a toilet, young, flushed and done with each other. No hello, goodbye, not even sandwiches. Just the life of a fuck or the fuck of one's life, bracketed by cubicle walls, by the chorus of urinals, open-mouthed and unsurprised. Nice legs, Mahmood, I said, and the astroturfed blushed. We were boys in jogging bottoms, and he wasn't, and that's what I meant, pointing my hockey stick, half knighting those bare legs, shorts to grey socks and white trainers, a whistle to the warm-up. We ran one lap him into local government. I saw in the paper, did he win? Unknown by anyone I would know now, men with their own blushes and flourishes, tales of memory about the nape of a warm summer's evening, stuck to the theatre while we prepare for another stagger home, after knighting in full the actor playing Ben and Joe and Stan, words spoken and ambiguous preference, another group passing. I know that Urdu, not directed at me, but words can curve to me alone, and not in this pitched huddle of reviewers, until I go home with sleep apnea, who does his own laps bare-legged during the night, the water thief dangling singularity, unaware of the crisscross words earlier this evening. Oh, my Dersies, I'm with a man who matches our parents in tea consumption and knows India through hotels and a history of middle-class boys, unafraid to walk through a five-star lobby to his room, unsurprising the appeal of a tall, broad white man, the top of the heap in all halves. I'll never sleep with this injustice, tangled with desire and temperature and comment rolling into my head from years ago. Who wants realism? Who wants romanticism? Who wants me to take the bones out of their soul? You know, I saw someone on a train eating an apple, munch mush common enough, yet uninhibited by the unpopular core, woody button to collar, only the stalk forsworn, branch tip grip provided to dangle this sinful world. And this is the last poem presentation. Thank you so much. It's great to be here. When we meet in person and both know what we have said in our chats about what we would like to do together, now comes the time to do it. Here I am fleshed out, standing on your doorstep, the beginning's end, the end of deferral. But still there are clothes to drop, our crosshatch of beards, the way you do this or that, and of course the splutters, finales, exhales. I come home, I take a nap and dream and wake to two messages, one from you, another from my mother, who says my father is steadily reducing the number of pots in the garden. So could I come next weekend to help him upturn the really heavy ones, the ones that sit like boulders? Those plants need to be restored to the earth. So when I do go home a week later, for the first time in ages, the inside of pots touch air, and I angrily tell my parents not to embark on these physical projects, my voice righteous raw, but they want things settled now. It's that time. Can I understand? You there, mister? Comes your message while I'm on the train. And I can't stand the there-ness as I head back to the city. The only others in my carriage, a group of sunburned men. We have noted each other. I desire a shell, an ear porcelain smooth into which I can slip and hear the waves crashing. I adjust my mask at my stop. The doors beat before opening and a man yells, Allahu Akbar. The old insult, British in inflection. I'm sure they can smell me. The train takes them, relief, relief. I count 14 hours until I'm due back at my desk, so I shift into professional mode. At home, I work on a presentation, a bid for which I am not sure of the priority, if it's just money the clients want, or flattery, or a scapegoat, while like outside on the path, a pigeon lands, grey and black, iridescent at the neck, curious, cautious, oblivious, staccato, chancing, escaping. That's where I will finish. Thank you. Are there any questions, thoughts? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Iman. That was just a beguiling and incredibly moving reading, and thank you so much for sharing that work with us. And as I say, it's just an honor to have you in the anthology. I'm just popping a link into the chat as well, which is for Blackwell. So we're going to be doing our bookstall if you're in person, but do look up all the books of our readers tonight alongside 100 queer poems. And so again, moving straight on this evening, we've got our next reader, Lisa Lux, who's a poet, playwright, activist, essayist of British Syrian heritage. Her debut book, The Astonishing Fetch Your Mother's Heart, published by another one of our great independent presses, Outspoken Press. I think it's really worth saying that, you know, one of the things that came up as we were putting together this anthology was the the curation of queer voices that's gone on by our independent presses. So we've heard poets already published by Burning Eye, by Pen in the Margins, and now the brilliant Outspoken with Lisa's astonishing debut, Fetch Your Mother's Heart, that was longlisted for the Polari Prize, and poems in it were highly commended in the Forward Prize as well. Her Channel 4 short film, Lesbian, won 5 awards, including Best LGBTQ Short at the Independent Short Awards. It's also a special mention in the brilliant Iris 2021 prize and the Goethe Prix Zebra Poetry Film Festival of 2021. Alongside the film's broadcast, other works on Lux is featured on BBC Radio 4, TEDx, and ITV. Lisa, again, as we're going to hear, is just, I think, one of our most exciting, one of our most linguistically innovative, but powerful poets working today. And again, they're always going to be near the top of the list of anybody that you would want in an anthology, and always a constant inspiration to me. So it's really an honor for me to introduce Lisa Lux.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And thank you for including me in this anthology, which I think marks a moment in a movement. And earlier, I just want to mention as well, I think Rosemary Baker is in the chat. I think I just saw, who is the director of the Channel 4 film. So I just want to give props where props are due there. And I just want to touch upon, I'm going to just ruminate for a moment and then I'll go into some poems, but I just want to think a little bit more around this concept of language, because I wanted to shape what I read to you guys tonight around Andrew's really nuanced introduction to the book, in which he spoke to the complexities of the word queer. And I think our understanding of language. Now, if you, okay, listen, my take on where we're at is that it is about a redefining of language. Okay, so it's about saying that language can be ours. Now, Andrew just said a moment ago that, you know, we can't, poetry won't be legislative. But I just quickly dug this book off the shelf, so I wanted to read you a quote, which is the William Carlos Williams quote, where he said, "It is difficult to get the news from poems, yet men die miserably every day for lack of what is found there." So I wonder if we can swap news for legislation there, because why I do think that that's important, while I also completely agree, really agree that poetry cannot act as if it is more than what it is. At the same time, what we do is, as poets, our job is to constantly redefine language. I'm a poet because I wasn't good with words, not because I was initially. It's because I messed up words a lot and I used them wrong. And so it was a rebellion in its own right. Now, why is that really important to think of poetry that way? When we think of queerness, I believe poetry is a language of queerness, because we're queering language, right? So, you know, and this will become relevant shortly, but during the colonial periods, which obviously have not finished, are not over, but certainly one of the tactics in coloniality was to ensure that there was a compulsory education which forced citizens into learning the language of the Constitution. Because once you speak the language of a Constitution, then you are consenting to being a policed body. And so I think about that when it comes to queerness, and our will to redefine words is, I believe, the crux of so much of the revolutionary behavior that we are tending towards and that we're trying to move towards. That's not to undermine the fact that, you know, if we don't use language that is used in policy, then we can't move policy forward. But I think the redefinition of words is incredibly appropriate as a form of resistance. So 2 of the poems that I'm going to read to you speak to that, because I was very inspired, and I was just very satisfied and satiated with Andrew addressing that in the introduction. So the poem I'm going to start with and the poem I'm going to end with are going to very much speak to that. Now, the first poem that I'm going to read was done based on a lot of research that I did about lesbianism in the Arab world in the Middle Ages. Now, in our region, we did not we did not punish homosexuality before the prudish Victorian British colonial regime arrived. It's not to say there wasn't homophobia. I'm not stretching the truth here, but the concept of punishing and persecuting and prosecuting homosexuals was an English invention that then they seeded out to countries in the Middle East and North Africa and beyond and beyond. So the first poem that I wrote speaks to that, and the final poem, rather than looking back, it looks forward at that. And then the middle poem, I made a sandwich, a little language sandwich for you. So the middle poem is the one that I put in the book, which speaks more to the body. So let me share my screen and just let me know if you can't see it, or if you can, whatever feels more productive. To right the wrongs of centuries, we must brew our own tools. No physician predicted this. Between major and minor notes, an itch of a bird's song, and you, my dawn, grinding saffron. Yeah, mitain u ashra, pestle and mortar. Bury in me your sigh as our soil carries dead in airless secrets. I hold your breath. Centuries persist, men dumb and ink. My saffron grind crushes beard and Bible to dust. All of this embroidered in waistbands, Yazari, for how I dress you up. Petrified in gold thread, sewn by mist. We survive the long hush. I hold your breath. Drench tonight's bed sheets in sweat, wet, tip and reaching, we open lips, exhale saffron ink, your cupped hand gathering. They call this lesbian. I kiss your knee and call you comrade. We laugh, and the sound is a language that hasn't been written yet. So this is the one that's in the book as well. And of course, this speaks to the codification of the body. It was somewhat a response to being told by a long-term partner that unfortunately only a man and a woman's body fit together, and that led to some really difficult situations to stomach. And so this considers the supposed interiority of the supposed woman's body. I was sleeping while she was letting him inside. I dream of mum crying at the dinner table while my sister watches Snapchat. A mound of salt where I usually sit. I dream of Layla pregnant by a man named Steve or Tony, not me. I bump into them in Ashrafiyeh, him grunting, me panting, her glowing. I dream of a high school boy who tried to plug his stretched earlobe with a huge fake diamond stud after his mum said emo wasn't man enough. After scooter license, hand job in the top field, I told him, sure, diamond studs, super manly. I dream I'm sleeping. I dream of loving her so good that when I am within her, fallen flower heads rise, my blue sky, leaving her pregnant with our child. All right. And then this is the final one that I read. So this is the redefinition of dyke, if you like. And it definitely responds to that first one. It also definitely responds to the Channel 4 film that I just shouted out Rosemary with as well. And this notion that like, man, like Lesbian is so often seen still as like a porn category, and even our sexualities, homosexuality, all this stuff is seen so often as relevant to the way that we have sex, but it's so much more. It's like to be a lesbian, to be queer is so much more than who I choose to make love to and how I choose to do that. For a subculture, very snappy title too. For a subculture to resist capitalist co-opting, it must remain impossible to define. Dyke is not my sexuality. Little footnote there, my sexuality is that men don't deserve me. Dyke is my gender. The she that exists outside of the male gaze. The earth is a dyke. If you held her in bed, you'd sink into the softness of her skin and she'd flex her biceps in response, knowing gold you are forbidden to mine for. Dyke is my political party. I've seen a city in rubble and watched butcheries and femmes knot hairs and carry whole neighborhoods beneath the paving stones while gay boys bowed and made their speeches. Dyke is my street fighter of choice. The way I square my shoulders when I mean listen. Dyke is the way I listen. Dyke is how I accessorize with bite marks, but would marry the cradle. Dyke is the splinters and snags in my fingers from chopping wood. Dyke is how I'll always keep you warm. There is a religion to Dyke, a belief in the bond and bind in the women and non-binary kind who choir eternal and pulse in formation. Dyke is every no we spell with possibility, every rapture made with mouth shields and dew. Dyke, the lucky strike. Dyke, the uncontainable. Dyke, the symbol that fails in order to succeed. They invented guns when they couldn't catch birds, and Dyke is still the ungrabbable wing. Dyke is both my nerves and my steel. Dyke moon in water. Dyke sun chiseling clouds to let tension out. I learned to hold my breath, which trained me to submarine into the deepest bonds where we pass in-jokes and lightning bolts between us. Dyke, the comrade, Dyke, the harvest, guardian, oh friend, among bike chains and clippers, horoscopes and crystals, with the blessed and the butch. My God, we feel true. Come now. Every BOI stood bad bitch and honey, you are the horizon. Thank you very much for including me in this.
Gosh, I think if you could hear across the nation, there'd be kind of people standing up and applauding and kind of giving standing ovations. Just what a powerful reading that was, Lisa. Thank you so much. And for those words as well at the start, I think that was incredibly moving and really well said as well. So thank you so much for that. You know, the idea of languages, as Lisa was saying, is incredibly important. The word queer has become weaponized by kind of anti-trans rhetoric in recent years, and that happened. To me, it seemed to happen during the process of putting this anthology together, that the kind of that word became kind of much more weaponized and contentious than it had been in the past. We asked everybody who's living's permission to be included in the anthology, because me and Mary Jean were also aware that that word queer for a certain generation of people still feels to them in their DNA as an insult. And we didn't want anyone to feel uncomfortable with being kind of turned by that word. So everybody's kind of been asked permission to, was asked permission if they wanted to be in the anthology. And we had interesting conversations about that. To me, that word queer doesn't hide the fact that I identify as a gay man. It just reminds me that I'm part of a bigger community. And it reminds us that the strongest and the most privileged in that community, people like me, have a duty to look out for those who aren't as privileged and don't have as much security and safety. Our next reader is just as powerful, and I think in many ways is exactly who you'd want to follow Lisa. So we've got Claire Shaw reading for us now. So Claire, they're the author of 4 poetry collections, with Blood Axe 2022 collection, Towards a General Theory of Love, was a poetry book that was the Poetry Society Book of the Year. They've been co-director of Kendal Poetry Festival, which is a brilliant festival that actually has just released its own guidelines on accessibility and hybridity for festivals, and is a benchmark for inclusivity. They've been a Royal Literary Associate, the regular tutor for Wordsworth Grasmere and for Arvon. Me and Claire, in fact, are doing an Arvon together tomorrow. If you happen to be in Manchester with nothing to do, come along to Manchester Poetry Library and learn from Claire themselves in person. Their work is grounded in natural landscapes as much as social activism, I think, and it's fueled by faith in transformative, redemptive power of language. Anyone that's ever been taught by Claire, been in Claire's presence, knows how kind of generous they are, how giving they are in terms of what they give to other poets. And what's really brilliant tonight is to give that rightful space to Claire to show us how brilliant their poetry is, how important their poetry is, and how vital that voice is. So please join me in your own living rooms, sitting rooms, gardens again in welcoming Claire Shaw.
Oh, you lovely thing, Andrew. Cheers. I'll buy you a cup of tea for that tomorrow. That was incredible, and what an incredible event to be at, what an incredible anthology to be included in. This is all just brilliant. And yeah, a shame that we can't be in the same room with each other, but actually being online has made this a much more accessible event. So hooray for that as well. And we're all enjoying screen share and being able to see the form. Everyone's a winner. Can I just check that the screen share's working? Would someone give me a thumbs up? Can you give me a thumbs up if you can see it? Well, maybe just shout in chat if you can't, because I can't see. I can only see a limited number of faces. I'm going to read tonight just from Towards a General Theory of Love, which is, like it sounds, an exploration of the theory, the philosophy, the neurology, and the experience of love in all of its forms. An account of my reading from 6 to 16 years old. I wanted to be a soldier. I wanted to be a swan. I wanted to be stored in a cupboard. I wanted to learn myself. I wanted to smell of dust. I wanted to escape at night. I wanted my teachers to cry. I wanted to live in a cellar. I wanted to survive. I wanted to be spoken out loud. I wanted to be unsuitable for children. I wanted to be rude. I wanted to stand on the sill at night. I wanted the moon. I did not want to sleep. I wanted to know where the story went, which lines were mine. I didn't want to be Christmas. I wanted snow. I wanted to drift in dark lanes. I wanted silence. I wanted to know myself off by heart. I didn't want to be a doll. I wanted to be Teddy, to be soft. I wanted muscles. I wanted to be a cat in an alley. I wanted to sing. I didn't want to be the sea. I didn't want to be a place that people visited. I didn't want anyone to lie down. I wanted to be a big house where I could wander. I wanted stairways that nobody knew. I wanted to be a corridor with many rooms, a great hall with the fire gone out. I wanted to be an old bottle to be in pieces. I wanted to be mountain. I wanted to be very high. I wanted heather to write myself, to be pulled up by the roots. I wanted blood. I wanted to float in dark water with the fires all behind me. I wanted to be complicated and very sad. I wanted to be a map. I wanted to find myself. I wanted to be lost in a park and taken home. I did not want to be destroyed. I wanted my granddad to recite me. I wanted to be a song. I wanted cider. I wanted a girl. I wanted to make it rain. That's my voice. But right now, because I'm reading from Towards the General Theory of Love, I'm going to welcome another voice into the room, which is Monkey. Monkey is part of a kind of a spine of a series that runs through the collection. And it's an exploration really of attachment theory. Monkey is, if you like, a survivor of Harry Harlow's infamous experiments on baby rhesus monkeys that were carried out in the 1960s and that proved the importance of attachment and affection and touch, and particularly of maternal love, by denying baby rhesus monkeys touch and affection and love, contact, and by subjecting them to various awful traumas. It's a really conflicted set of experiments and time. Anyway, Monkey emerged, and he kind of felt like a real character that walked alongside me for a period of time, and we had lots of conversations. And here is one that we had on the difficulty of working therapeutically with non-verbal traumatic memories. If I could put words to it, says Monkey, that would be half the problem solved. Poor Monkey. All he can do is scream, and that is unsatisfying. He is not convinced by bodywork, and he doesn't like dancing. Perhaps you could draw me a story, I suggest, but he eats the pen. Why are you frowning? Asks Monkey. He seems concerned. Perhaps he could mime me the little cage where he was kept, or express his aloneness with sand. It ends badly. We are trying so hard to reach each other, but his body spells fear. Language is overrated, I tell Monkey, but he won't believe me. If I can't tell you my story, he says, I'll live there alone. Give me your hand, little monkey. Come look at the moon. But his eyes are an empty sky right now, and his face is an empty room. I ask Monkey how he sleeps. He tells me that some nights he is a bright moon that never sets. Sometimes when he sleeps, he sees himself reflected in a lake, and he is beautiful. Some nights he has company. Some nights there is a forest inside him and the birds will not settle. He does not believe in ghosts, but some nights he is haunted. Some nights he is all on fire. The rain is relentless and the wind excites him. Some nights he is a dark path. He can hardly make himself out. Some nights he is tree. He can't lie down. Oh, Monkey, please hold me. Tonight there are tigers. I cannot close my eyes. It's not all gloom and doom. Monkey joined a dating app. Harking back to Toby. Monkey actually joined a dating app. And in the dating app that Monkey joined, which was a reputable dating app, he was prompted when he was writing his profile. He explained to me, he was used these prompts that these dating apps provide, these prompts for writing your profile, which is great art. And they ask things like, what are 5 things you could not live without? What are 5 things you're passionate about? What are your best qualities? What do you need from a relationship? And Monkey found this really useful, as you'll see. Monkey joins a dating app. 1, I require a relationship within 500 miles. Do not believe in God or pets. I am athletic and very hirsute. 2, I am passionate about grasshoppers, rain, keeping warm, and sex from behind. 3, I am grateful for not being dead, for my good teeth, for the river, and whatever there is in the fridge. 4. The 5 things I can't live without are love and water. 5. Please swipe me. I am excellent at making children. I avoid inbreeding. I can fish for ants with a stick. 6. Though I do not own my own car, I am community-minded. I enjoy making new friends. 7. And also sex. I am good at climbing trees. Monkey did have some measure of success during his time on the dating app, as you'll see. When I look at her, says Monkey, all the doors in my head swing open and the lights are on. There are new rooms inside my house and the river is silent. There's sunshine over the moor, and though it's a terrible year, there are 2 horses. When I look at her, there's a low owl hunting by evening. Motorbike passing. When I look at her, there's a low owl hunting by evening. All the voices in the forest are still. When she holds me, I'm first violin, I'm first in the race, I'm flying. None of my bones are aching, I'm getting the hang of this. When she kisses me, I am the Chilean miners reaching the air. And though she's a country I've never visited, I'm picking up the language quick. I'm on the deck of a ship at night and the moon is out and the engines are roaring and it's full steam ahead. I think I'll stop there.
Gosh, Claire, thank you so much. And again, if you just look into the chat, you can see the kind of love and appreciation of those fantastic poems and just this ability that we've seen that Claire has just to kind of reach into these things that for most poets are beyond language, to kind of ground them for us, kind of make them living for us, make them incredibly moving for us. So thank you so much for that, Claire. And we come now to our final poet of the evening, who is just the luminous and the brilliant Dorothea Smart. And when we were first putting together this anthology, part of what we wanted to do was to really kind of, you know, think about poets who deserve to be at the center of something, who deserve to be on every curriculum, who deserve to be at the kind of center of the narrative that we tell about poetry in this country. And Dorothea Smart is obviously one of those poets, literary activist, poet, live artist. Since the 1980s has contributed vastly to Black lesbian, Black feminist activism, 2 collections of poetry, Connecting Medium and Shipshape, published by the brilliant People Tree Press. Again, another one of our vital independent presses. Her most recent pamphlet is Reader, I Married Him and Other Queer Goings On, which is a fantastic title. For the 60th anniversary of Barbados independence, she was nominated for a Golden Jubilee Award for her contributions to British culture, and quite right too. I'm going to bring Dorothea's poems up onto the screen because, as we can see, she's standing for what I'm sure is going to be a brilliant performance. So I'm going to begin to share my screen now and hand you over to Dorothea.
Hi everybody. Hoping you can all hear me very well. I was actually going to start with a poem by June Jordan. Some of you may know her. I always like to sort of start with poems by people whose footsteps I feel I'm following in. And I feel like, you know, June Jordan is someone who really inspired me when I was younger, her words and her work. And she also happens to be in Queer Poet as well. So that was lovely to share, be in an anthology with her, as it is with all the others who read before me. They've left me quite speechless, really. Thanks, Andrew, for bringing us all together this evening. But yeah, June Jordan, who's no longer with us, and is among the ancestors, as they say. And this is Roman poem number 13. Only our hearts will argue hard against the small lights letting in the news. And who can choose between the worst possibility and the last, between the winners of the wars against the breathing and the last war everyone will lose? And who can choose between the dry gas, domination of the future and the past, between the consequences of the killers and the past of all the killing? There is no choice in these. Your voice breaks very close to me, my love. And I'll read my contribution to 100 Queer Poems, which has become one of my favorite poems because it inspired a group of young activists called Shake. They're a collective of feisty, young, go-getting kind of creative activists, and they have their own manifesto and their own projects that they do every summer. Look them up online, and they're called Shake because of this poem, which I'm honored. Shake my future. Shake my future. Push me past my complacency, my taken for granted, my comfort zone. Shake my future. Let me source the unimagined, be released from the sentence of the inevitable. Take control, empower myself, past the dour predictions of the present, and change myself, shake my future, challenge our first world's capitalist, consumerist criminal zone of perpetual purchasing, shake my future past the edges of the known world, launch me out into the hinterlands of the intuited, imagined, beyond the droughts of apathy, and quench my thirst for something different. Shake my future with alternative endings, curdle the milk of human kindness beyond the patronizing rattle of charity cans to preserve the poor and assuage my guilt. Shake my future with a kaleidoscope of tunes, play some other melody and bliss me out of ignorance. Let my mind expand with a question, and seeking the answers, shake my future, shake my future, shake my future in a triangle of tangential tirades and beckon me into a sandwich of yes, we can and hope. I think Lisa earlier was saying, I like to kind of think about people like us, I'll say that. Who knows, you know, what we called ourselves in the past, and there might have been words for it, or it might just have been an action, an act. This is a kind of imagined ancestor in the who happened to play with Duke Ellington, because my ancestors did stuff like that. Jazzed up, 1933, the ship arrives at Southampton. Duke Ellington's orchestra, every man a polished impresario of the new music, jazz. Coming down the gangplank, weighted with trumpets, double bass, clarinets, saxophones, piano, high in the sky, lowered onto the quayside, a rush of giddy islanders cheer and wave. The Duke is here. Cyril is overcome. He and the fellas in the band smiling with eyes a star in the universe of the Duke, shining bright from a moonlight, is free drinks, white ladies giggly, and the tall gentleman with piercing blue eyes, slim and finely dressed, casual in him, silk and that. He have a man. This manservant brings Cyril a card, an invitation to dine. You fellas winking now. Better make sure you put on clean drawers, you hear? Cyril take a swipe at the teasing trombone. Outside the Cafe Royal, working girls in their Sunday best wait to glimpse the Duke and his courtiers, men of music, men, not boys, who bring all Duke rhythms down, way down south, so way down there's African and titillating. Bridget, wide-eyed, on tiptoes, spies a broad-chested hunk of caramel, matinee idol making his clarinet croon. She swooned. The Jamaican fella, he was East meets West. Grandmother a Hong Kong bride come cross to meet she West Indies Chinaman. Could make a guitar eek eerie sounds. Curious English girls ask Han, where he from? Han smiling says, it's complicated. The jet black Cubana they call Legs, not cause he's so tall, but because he knew his legacy. Could tell you which African tribe people hail from, drum out some deep spirit rhythms from the old home country his Havana Ile kept alive, first to drop a touch of rum to the stage. Pierre was a fearsome trombonist, cheeks, a sweet zeppelin of hot air, man could talk some jive, well, putting people in lasting trance, zombified. The fellas laughed, but kept their distance, eyed the crocus bag he kept round his neck. Old Solly, Duke, long-time bass guitar man, hail from a smaller sea island, pockets of runaways living in their old-timey ways. Old Solly wasn't so old, but come like a seer, a prophet. Said his grandfather sang him the Quran. He bass guitar throbbed with a Georgia heart blown across from the Sahara. London was them playground for the Duke and his band, pallid, bespectacled, serious white boys, earnestly trying to catch their blues, silk socks, shining spats with top hats gleaming, glamorous titled ladies, not Hollywood or Harlem. This was the real McCoy, Duchess this and that, Countess so and so, furs, tiara, Viscount with sword and sash, real aristocrat, put Barbados planters down to scale. One footman from a place called Wales had a grip on the blues and jazz straight away. So at home on the lips of that Irish maid, Bridget, fierce, red-haired, could let her body swing along. The high-class ladies couldn't touch her. Some nights, the Duke's men played for them, downstairs folk, and jumping, still and tearful the next. Cyril caressing Bridget in his arms as she talked, she homesick talk. Teddy told Cyril in his arms as he talked his homesick talk. Teddy, following on the same ship up for a jaunt to New York, see Duke, his men, rain at the Cotton Club, where Yankees think this accent is. Lusty Wild West types stare down such a soft silk manservant in tow, always making sure he got home, leaving a key for Cyril to entertain, lights out, a private rendering. Come morning, Cyril making his. Duke ran a tight ship, rehearsals on the dot. Stretching, he bound to try a little something that come to me. Music, his Duchess, the only lady he entertained at night as Duke Mania catch all Blighty by storm. The Duke, and his men were all. Thank you. And let me finish now. I'll get rid of this buzzing. Of my time up for sure. Let me finish with from the chapbook that Andrew mentioned. It's from Reader I Married Him. It's called Woman with Golden Apple, No Ordinary Fruit. By the way, a golden apple is a name in Barbados for a particular kind of prickly-ish fruit that's kind of like a cross between an apple and a pear and a plum. A woman holding a golden apple in her palms has crossed the boundary, uncertain yet hopeful. She waits there, glances back at stony ground, scenes when her desire was too held in check, diminishing. Now, with this globe she's grasping, something beckons. Its small, oval assurance, a piquant promise of juiciness no one shall deny. She dares a smile at signs of surrender within her, packed precariously about a soft, spiky seed. Soon, she will uncover the arousing body, touch tangy lips, kiss a loving woman, traverse any stings of this asylum. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much, Dorothea, for that incredibly moving and beautiful reading. Thank you so much. In fact, because I forgot to turn my microphone off, I think you probably heard my spontaneous applause at some point that I just broke into on my own in my living room when I thought nobody could hear. And you can just see the love in the chat. So thank you all so much for sharing that for Dorothea as well. And thank you just for coming along this evening. I just want to give a couple of shout outs both to Manchester Literature Festival, who have partnered with us on this event. Manchester Literature Festival, a vital organisation in our city, but I think nationally for literature as well. They've got a whole programme of very, very exciting events throughout the year, but of course the festival in October. So keep an eye on the MLF social media and on the website to see what's coming up for the Literature Festival over the coming months. Thank you to Manchester Poetry Library, who I'm lucky enough to work alongside and be able to pop down into. Manchester Poetry Library has now been open just over a year. We're based in the heart of Manchester. It's a public lending library. Anybody can join, anyone can take out poetry books. We've got a suite of events and kind of initiatives that happen all year round, but do come and visit if you're ever in the area and do join and take out books as well, because we are a lending library. Thank you to Ricardo behind the scenes, who's been messaging me things like, Andrew, you've left your microphone on. Andrew, that light isn't flattering, as we've been going on through the event, which is the kind of messages that I need to know. Thank you to this hat, which says Sappho. And I thought that might be a kind of relevant hat to wear this evening. Thank you to you all for coming along. We can just see the love in the chat, but most of all, I just want to thank these 5 poets. So as I say, just 5 of the, there are 95 other poets to go and find in this anthology and to read and to celebrate, and there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other voices, both young and old, queer voices, to go away and read. But thank you so much to Toby Campion, to Aman Haider, to Lisa Lux, to Claire Shaw, to Dorothea Smart. It's been just a mesmerising evening of poetry, and thank you very much, and have great weekends, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Andrew.
Thanks so much, Dorothy. That was amazing. That was such a great way to finish off. It's really great to stand as well. So nobody really does that for readings online, I often think, but I felt that's
Bit of time. Yeah. Thanks so much for your support, Ricardo.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. What a treat. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
I look forward to the recording. I hope, yeah, because they started playing basketball outside.